Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Nooner, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent Metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome, everybody, to The Next Level, Conversations that Propel Business. My name is Stephen Nooner.
And this is Bob Gibbons.
And we are here. We've got some very special guests. But before we do that, we'd like to just, for those of you that are new to the show, introduce you to the show. Our show exists to really support and highlight the entrepreneurial community by having and facilitating meaningful conversations where we can all learn, grow, and from each other's experience.
Yeah, it's called Conversations That Propel Business, so we better talk to each other.
We always like to start off with something positive before we introduce our guests, and I'll choose a quote. I thought a really, really neat quote that applies to business, but is not of business, is one from Mike Tyson.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
And he said, see if you guys can relate to this.
Say it in his voice.
Everyone has a plan until I punch him in the face.
Every what has a plan?
Everyone has a plan until I punch him in the face. Tell me if you've ever felt that in your business.
Yeah, I've been punched in the face a few times. I probably will today, too.
Well, and that's why actually I'm really excited to talk with our guests today. They've got a really amazing story on how you can respond to maybe an unexpected event.
Absolutely, and I'm really excited today. We have Joe and Kate Lundgren with us. They are the owners of Cutting Edge Pediatric Therapy, based in Allen, Texas. And they've been in business for a little over 2 years, and they have about 29 employees. They also have an office in Katy, Texas, just west of Houston. And so we're excited about it. If you want to learn more about them, you can go to their website at cuttingedgepediatrictherapy.com. That's therapy. There's only one. It's not plural. Correct. But I'm sure they have more than one kind of therapy going on.
You got it.
Okay, cool. Well, we're excited you guys are here today. We like to start off the show with something about gratitude. Steve, what you got going today?
Yeah, so I think for me it's actually a personal, my daughter was diagnosed with alopecia, which is like a hair brittleness follicle disorder, and her hair falls out really easy. And this morning she came to me and said, "Daddy, I couldn't get a ponytail, but that's okay. I'm beautiful, I'm special, I'm Everett." And there's only one Everett, and
wow,
that was really, really cool for me because I've always worried that she's going to have an insecurity about it, but she was really, really positive. So that's my positive.
That's an interesting insight that a child that age, how old is she now?
4.
4 years old. Wow, that's pretty cool. Well, thanks for that. I didn't really have anything that I thought about today, so I'm just going to leave it at Everett. She's our wisdom for the day, which is probably the best. Well, Joe and Kate, thanks so much for being here.
Sure.
We're excited y'all are here to talk to us. And I guess the thing that I have to ask you first is that there's a lot of people that do occupational therapy and physical therapy. And but you guys specialize in the special needs community. Why? I mean, what brought you to that place?
That's a big question, Bob. And I'll tell you, Kate can probably add on to this even more, but for those of you who haven't known our business and are new to it and haven't seen our website, we have 2 boys ourselves that were diagnosed with autism about 17, 18 years ago. They're currently 19 and 23 years old. So we have taken a different path than pretty much any other clinic owner that we know of to end up where we're at today. So I think that's the biggest thing that differentiates us is when parents come in and talk to us about where their child's at, we can fully relate to them, on a personal level. And then also from Kate's vast experience, which I think I'll let her talk a little bit about, just the fact that she's able to approach it not only from a parent standpoint, but also from a professional level and exactly what that child needs. So if you want to add on to that, Katie.
Yeah, I think the model we've developed at Cutting Edge is unique because we do carry multiple roles, and we are able to relate directly with that family and not only be able to provide the services that they need, but also be able to understand the situation they're in intimately. And I think, honestly, that's why a lot of people have come to Cutting Edge, because they read our bios and they say, you know what, these people understand and get what's going on, and I'm in a place where I need somebody to understand and get me.
It's not just business, it's personal.
It's very personal. One thing I always tell my clinicians when we hire them, and the reason we developed the model we did, is that it's critical that when you treat a child, you're treating an entire family. So you're working with a family unit. And I often tell them it's not about what you agree with clinically, has nothing to do with that, or what you agree with morally, or if you agree with the way the family's raising that child. That has little to do with it. It is about them, not about you.
So as your kids were growing up, did they have services like this available to them?
Yes, they did. It was that was a long journey ago. In that time, which was in the late 90s, autism was in a very different state than it is today. Thanks to many of my mentors and many of the parents that walk this journey with me side by side, we've been able to pave the way to an entirely different autism world. When we experienced this, it was not on television. It was not on Montel Williams or Oprah Winfrey. We actually were trying to get it televised. Nobody wanted to have a thing to do with autism. It was pretty much unheard of, undiscovered. If you go back and look at the statistics, it was about 1 in 10,000 in 1978. And by the time we walked into it, it was about 1 in 500. It's now 1 in every 43, Joe?
It's 54 boys,
54
1 in
male
68
births.
Wow.
Kids. Correct.
Right. So I think that it was a very different time. I can even remember, I always tell families, it's oftentimes very common to change the diet of the child with autism, and so people have gone gluten and casein free, which everybody understands. You can go to any market and you can go to a restaurant and get gluten-free food. Back in those days, they were arresting parents and calling CPS for putting your kid on a gluten and casein-free diet.
Wow.
No, that wasn't that many years ago. So there were not the specializations that we see today. There was always occupational therapy, and some of the private clinics were getting very specialized into looking at what worked with autism. And we did know that these kids had significant sensory processing issues. So a lot of the sensory type clinics were moving forward with treating these kids and kind of figuring it out as they went.
Well, I guess one question I want to back up to is 1 in 10,000 15 or 20 years ago and 1 in 50 roughly today. Is that just because diagnoses are better, or is there something happening that's creating so many more people with this condition?
That's a very popular question. I hear it all the time.
I'm very common.
And it's one that I hear. I also have the opportunity, I do some guest lecturing, and I worked as an adjunct at Texas Women's University in the School of Occupational Therapy, and I worked specifically in pediatrics, and I developed a special interest course on autism. So I hear these questions all the time. You know, diagnostics have improved, but there's no way that those numbers could keep up with what we're seeing. So people say, what caused autism? And I always say my common answer is it is a genetic predisposition with an environmental trigger, and that environmental trigger is multifaceted.
Tell me a little bit about this. So pulling your personal relationship, it's not business to personal. Tell me about how that impacted your model. What makes you guys unique versus other places, other than that you get it?
And I alluded to a little bit of that when I said we're very, very family-centered. One thing we did when we looked at the space we were going to be in, part of the model was to have a very nice waiting room. I was the parent that sat in those waiting rooms. They were awful. They were, you ever been in a doctor's office? It's a bunch of chairs. There isn't even a table. It's small. There's no rest. You got to go down into the treatment area. Really difficult situations. And I was just thankful to have a good place to go. But I decided if I'm really, I think over the last 20 some odd years, it's kind of like when you build a new house. You decide, next house I'm going to build, I'm going to do this and this and this. I have been making notes for 20 years. So that's what I did. And we changed a few things. We made very large gyms. I worked in treatment areas that were very small. So we have 3 very large gyms. We have close to 3,000 square feet of treatment space. So we have coffee set up. We have Wi-Fi. We have nice bathrooms. We have charging stations.
So there's truly things for the parent and the other siblings to do while they're waiting.
Yeah. Netflix for the siblings to watch.
Netflix.
Yes. They can come back.
What's your address?
And I know, and have snacks. We don't say only snacks for the client. A lot of times, those siblings live there, so we want to make it nice for them also.
So, what was the scariest risk that you guys faced when you were setting up your own practice?
Oh, I'll turn that over to Joe.
Oh, that's where she throws it to me. I think, the fear that we had entering into it was just how much it cost to start the practice. While I came from a business background and had a business plan written, it's those hidden costs that you don't see that pop up a lot of times that we all learned about in business school, but didn't write them in my business plan. And so I think that was one of the things that as we started to look at that, that was the risk, because we put basically our life savings, I can say that because I honestly did, into that facility and starting that, because our model is different. As Kate said, she talks it in clinical terms. If you go to a lot of the other clinics that are out in the marketplace that has very good clinicians, the space they have is not as large as us. And we're not trying to be a mega therapy center. We're trying to have settings that's appropriate for multiple children at one time. So we want to make sure that we are able to have separate situations, separate rooms that kids can get treated in. If they are having some kind of a meltdown or something's going on with that child, I used to listen to my kid cry in the back when another mom in the waiting room and think and look at her and go, gosh, I'm going to have to pay your kid's therapy session today because my kid just ruined yours. No. So that was a big thing when we went into it, is we're going to create some separate space here so that we can have the therapist be able to focus on the needs of that child and not what's going on with another child at that time.
So in 30 seconds, who is your ideal client?
Wow. I think that's a vast, anybody and we talk about autism a lot because it's close to our heart, and that is a large population of our clientele, but anybody in the special needs community, and I don't just say that child, but also that family, as Kate said, that's our client.
So Down syndrome,
Asperger's syndrome, yes, into Down syndrome, a variety.
Learning disabilities, motor coordination problems, ADD, ADHD, dyslexia.
Well, excellent. Well, we're going to a break right now. We'll be back in a few minutes, and stick with us.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession: never exercise your renewal option. Now, I know that sounds crazy, right? Why would you get a renewal option if you don't ever plan to use it? Well, a renewal option is really just a reservation for your space, which prevents the landlord from leasing your space out to someone else, leasing it out from under you. Some options actually bind you to an extended term before you even know what the rental rate will be. But that rental option was created 3, 5, or even 10 years ago when you signed your lease, and may not work for you today. Fortunately, there is a way, an easy way, to renew your lease without the risk of exercising your renewal option. To learn what that is, please contact me at www.texastenantrep.com. Again, that's texastenantrep.com.
Want to create a breakthrough in your business or personal life? Here's a tip. Stop shopping for insurance and insurance agents. Begin looking for a way to more effectively buy and manage your insurance. At Alkali, That is exactly what we provide. The freedom you create by changing this mindset alone will make an impact. Plus, you can stop listening to all the insurance commercials on TV and radio, unless they're funny, of course. Are you an insurance novice or just want to take things to the next level? Knowledge is power. Come join us for the single most important class that you never took in business school. We have the following upcoming classes that we teach through Collin College and the Small Business Development Center. Thursday, September 24th, Protecting Your Business 202. Thursday, October 15th, Healthcare Reform. What the health is going on? Thursday, November 19th, Protecting Your Business 101. To sign up or learn more, visit us at alkaliservices.com. That's alkali, A-L-K-A-L-I, services with an S.com.
My name is Joe.
And I am Kate Lundgren of Cutting Edge Pediatric Therapy, and we are taking our business to the next level in spite of Bob and Steve.
Welcome back to the next level, conversations that propel business. This is Bob Gibbons.
And Stephen Nooner.
And we're here with our guests, Joe and Kate Lundgren of Cutting Edge Pediatric Therapy.
One of my favorite segments, one of the segments that we're going to go into now is the high-low segment. And this is actually something we've stolen to the great Zig Ziglar. And he had this thing called the Wheel of Life, and there were 7 sections: career, social, financial, family, physical, mental, and spiritual. And he talked about how if any one of these areas were to get too out of balance, you run down the road with a flat tire and you start having real problems. So for the audience and for all of our mutual learning, in the last 12 months, what would you say, if you had to pick one of those areas, what would be the one thing, the most important thing that you think that's happened that would be a high?
That would be a high. I think the biggest area for us probably would be spiritual. We know that when we were praying about starting Cutting Edge Pediatric Therapy, we went through much counsel, and we really felt like this was what people coin a God thing. We were very obedient with waiting for doors to open and for opportunity. It was not our agenda. So I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I think I also agree with Kate, and it's family also, and that's the spiritual component, because my life before operating in the clinic world was the corporate world, and with that, for 27 years being on the road, it didn't have a lot of family time. So I think when we look at it, we say it's also the family, and it's from a spiritual sense. It definitely brought us much closer as a family unit.
So how does that change over time as the boys grow? Get older?
Oh, I think it just continues to grow. There's not a day, we'll never get it, as I say, wired, and so to speak, figured it out. Each and every day, no matter how old we are, we're learning. And yeah, we've got a little bit different curve than most other families to follow. Sure. Because of the situation our boys are in. But at the same time, we look at that as the opportunity now. We've kind of figured it out. I think it's one of those things, God sent the helicopter, God, sent the man on the raft to save you from the drowning. And here we are with this opportunity to open the clinic, and we now say, now we get it. Okay, it just took us, 20 years to figure it out here. But now that we've got it figured out, I think it's the growth on the model that we have to impact as many families we can, not only from what we learn in our own setting, but what we learn from them through the clinic, and then be able to expand that out to multiple families out there in the special needs community. So
the journey prepared you for really where you're at. So, I guess what I'm hearing in this, I won't put words in your mouth, it's like, you had the aha and this spiritual, understanding that you've reached, but really, instead of looking back, really maybe all of that is really what's prepared you for right now. So God's time was maybe perfect in it all anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. God's time's always perfect. It's our understanding that's the problem. And our following and our obedience.
I can attest to that.
Well, switching gears a little bit, what would you say would be your low?
Oh, wow.
I would say one low for us that we've had to work real hard on, and our families work on this, is balance. Balance in those areas. I think there's seasons of time where all those 7 things have highs and lows, and I think sometimes we've struggled with making sure we don't spend maybe too much time doing one thing versus another. I think it's critical that you don't discontinue important things that are critical. You don't not take a family vacation because you've got a business. You don't not go to church or church events because you've got a business. I think it's critical you continue to function in all those capacities in your life and keep those balanced out. That's been the key for us.
Sometimes in a family business, it seems that where your personal life and your business life start and stop becomes extremely blurred, and therefore some of the things you were just mentioning kind of take a back seat. Oh, we don't need to do that because we're all together anyway.
Right. Right.
That's a good point.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next segment, which we call the experience impact, and this is really where we ask that you be totally transparent and stop trying to look good, and y'all look great, but for the sake of mutual learning, we want to know sort of what the real impact is. So, what has been your biggest breakdown, failure that has turned into a breakthrough in your business?
Can I start with one? Because it just came to my mind. One thing that I really wasn't as prepared for, because the businesses I had worked for in the past didn't take insurance. They were out-of-network providers. I felt a real calling to be able to take insurance because I wanted to be able to provide this opportunity to families that wouldn't be able to afford it another way. Insurance has been a huge thing to figure out, and we entered the marketplace when Obamacare did. So it made it even a larger learning curve for us. So I would say we have learned a tremendous amount about insurance, and we're constantly educating our families about understanding what your policy is and what you're purchasing with a company.
And it's still evolving.
Oh, without a doubt. That's a big hurdle for us, and that I would say that's one, because there's the other aspects of running the business that continue to, like I say, pop up as we go on. What letter I get from whatever county about a new tax that's coming across the table that I'm not aware of. While at the same time operating in Texas is a benefit to that. But then also seeking, through this all, is seeking wisdom from others, and this is a great program to be able to go out and just listen and learn from everybody else's mistakes, which you start to figure out at 50. That's why people make mistakes, is so I can learn from them. So, but at the same time, I look back and I say we can also engage those people. So we've actually hired a consultant that helps us operate within the guidelines of God's law also, and it comes from a spiritual perspective, but also brass tacks business, and so that has really added value to the overall future of our company because of the fact that we have that guidance.
Kingdom purpose, kingdom focus for business, and I guess, since it's family too, it's integrated coaching. So they're touching all areas of life. And
yes.
That's awesome. And that's been a good lifeline for you guys, huh?
Yes.
Accountability is very important in the business world.
So what are 3 of the biggest insights that y'all have discovered over the last few years running your own business that you could share with other people?
One I thought of is my sister actually is a therapist at my company, and I think originally Joe thought there's no way this will work. She's been the greatest blessing I've ever had.
Now it's on tape.
So don't hire family is not one of your problem areas.
No, and I think a lot of people would think that would be the case, and but we're older, so I don't know if we were in our 20s if it would be that way. By the way, we're not in our 20s, but now, yes. Yeah. There's balance in that.
And to tag on to that, and it's kind of along the same line, is while Kate and I would love to be able to meet and greet and interact with each and every single family, we understand in our model, especially having 2 locations, people are key. And the people are key from the standpoint of making sure they're like-minded, to us, and the fact that they will carry on the overall strategy and mission that Kate and I have outlined for Cutting Edge Pediatric Therapy at every location that we open up. So we found over time that, yes, you can get a person that I like to say fits in the Excel spreadsheet box of, yes, they have this skill and this skill and this skill, but will they carry on the message that we want to? Again, our credo is not only to the family or to the client who's getting treatment, but also to that family. And so it's all aspects of it.
It's powerful. Well, what I would like to wrap up with, we ask all of our guests this question. It's a little bit of thinking question. And if we were all sitting together, yeah, you have your coffee, so we're good.
Yeah.
If we're all sitting together here 3 years from now, and you're to look back to today, what needs to happen personally, professionally with your business for you to feel satisfied with the progress you're making?
Wow, I'd like to maintain the same staff for the next 3 years.
Yes, you got a great crew.
That's awesome.
You know, I can go into that. I mean, really, I think with the model and the impact that we're making on families, and I know I keep saying on families because it's not just the client coming in. We're excited because we know the Lord's behind this, and with His direction, we feel that we'll be able to increase this model into other areas. We're in Katy now, and maybe some other time you'll have us on the show. We can talk about what we're doing in China. But we also look at what we want to do here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I hope to have another couple locations that we'd be able to expand out and help more special needs families.
So you got to tell us real fast. You dropped a little bomb on China there. That's not the normal thing. You have an office in Allen, Katy, and China. There's a few other places between here and there.
Yes,
what's up
yes.
there?
And China is something that we're looking to try and open up in late 2016, early 2017. We're actually working with the government in Guangzhou and have some really good connections to be able to go out and start the first occupational therapy clinic for pediatric special needs children in all of China. We're coming at a little different approaches that we're saying to the government, we want you to come, see what we're doing, get the qualified personnel, and then copy us across China. We want you to do this because of the fact that we've been there and toured. Kate had the opportunity to do a couple conferences over there earlier this year and really showed us the need for the services that we can provide. So that has just been a blessing, and we think another guiding step, but at the same time keeping focused on our families here at our current clinics.
That's really exciting. I can't quite imagine what that would be like to do business there in China. But Godspeed to you.
Yes, it's definitely a step-by-step process. I've been doing business in China for quite a few years, so I have some experience. And so while we're working with the government, we're excited about that and know that there could be some different curves to the business plan that we might have to maneuver around.
I would bet.
So in 3 years, we'll tell you how we got through that.
That's awesome.
We'll have you back. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being our guests.
Thank
Kate
you.
and Joe Lundgren with Cutting Edge Pediatric Therapy have been our guests today. If you want to learn more about them, please go to their website, cuttingedgepediatrictherapy.com.
And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening.